Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Nur Hayati Bt Ismail and today my partner and I will present to you on the topic 5 legal rulings in Islam. First of all, let us know the definition of hukum or a legal rule. Hukum is the word and command of Allah that is addressed and related specifically to the actions or behaviors or deeds of humans who are capable of performing these commands. In other words, hukum is a moral regulation that related to the behavior of humans in their relationship with Allah. Okay, legal obligations are derived from two major sources, which is through the Al-Quran and second through the Sunnah. And the other two sources are ijma' ulama and also taken from the qiyas. Next, there are 3 types of Allah commands, which is first, request or demand, or in Arabic as iqtida. Iqtida is the commands, either permission or prohibition, either in the form of request to do a particular thing or to avoid from doing a particular thing. Second is takhyir. Allah gives the believer the freedom of choice in making a decision whether to do a particular thing or not, without giving specific preference to the choice made by the believer. So it is up to the humans to do the choices. And the third one is wada'i. The commands are in the form of making one thing as a cause of the other or its condition or prevention. For example, we are supposed to take ablution or wudu for condition for our prayer to be valid. Next, who is legally and morally obligated or mukallaf? The Prophet Muhammad SAW said, Allah commands exclude those who are asleep till he wake up, and the young until reaching puberty, and the insane till they become mentally competent. So there are 3 requirements for legal obligation, which is first, Islam, second, maturity, and the third is sound rationality, which has conscience and also mental competence. From this requirement, every Muslim, male or female, who is matured, who is conscious and mentally competent, is obligated to follow all the command of Allah. Okay, next. This is our main idea for today, is the 5 categories of ruling values in Islam. Okay, ruling values is also called as ahkam. There are 5 kinds of ahkam in the Islamic divine law, which is first wajib or fardu, second mubah, third mandub, fourth makruh, and also fifth the haram. Next, I will talk to you about the wajib or fardu, required, obligatory. Okay, this category include all commands that which are obligatory on every Muslim, male or female, who have fulfilled the requirements of taklif or the ability to do them, which is all the commands on the mukallaf. The performance of wajib or fardu acts is rewarded, and according to the Quran and Sunnah, if a Muslim neglect performing these required behaviors, they will be punished. They will be punished both in this world and the hereafter. Okay, next. There are 2 types of the fardu as we learned. There are fardu ain and fardu kifayah. Fardu ain is individual or personal duties that every Muslim is responsible to do. For example, performing prayers, fasting and zakah. And this fardu ain, every individual must perform it by their own self. While fardu kifayah is collective duties, if some members of community had done it in a way that fulfills the goal, then it is no longer obligatory on the rest of the community. For example, attending at funeral prayers or commanding the good and forbidding evil. But remember, if no one achieves this fardu kifayah, then the whole community will be whole responsibility on it because there is nobody done it. Okay, next. Jumhur ulama said that the fardu and wajib are literally the same thing. But in Hanafi's ruling, there are differences between fardu and wajib, which is fardu is a compulsory command that comes with definitive evidence, which is qat'i. For example, our 5 daily prayers. But wajib is also compulsory command, but it comes with ambiguous evidence, which is zonni. For example, slaughtering during Idul Adha, because the order comes from the hadith ahad, so it's considered as wajib. Second, the necessity of doing the fardu is higher than doing the wajib. Third, the punishment for leaving the fardu is greater than the punishment for leaving the wajib. And the fourth one is a person who refuses to do the fardu things can be disbelieved kafir. But a person who refuses to do wajib things are still considered as Muslim, but they fall into the category of fasiq. Next, we continue with the second ruling values, which is mubah, permitted but morally indifferent. Mubah is any act that is left to the personal decision and to individual liberty. Muslim can make the decision whether or not to perform any act that is considered mubah, so it is up for the human either to do it or leave it. There is neither reward nor punishment for the performance or avoidance of the mubah. But even though so, the intention might turn a mubah act into a rewarding act. For example, we eating with the sincere intention to strengthen our body so we can work more and help our parents is an act of reward. Because here, the sincere intention of us to help our parents. Okay, the mubah is also called as jaiz and halal, lawful. An example, eating, drinking, sleeping, and hunting after tahallul, ihram. Okay, how can we recognize mubah? First, in the Quran and Sunnah, there can be indication made with words like uzina lakum, permission is granted to you, or la junaha alaikum, no fault is put upon you if. So, if we meet with these words, the ruling values there are mubah. Second, the actions of the Prophet Muhammad SAW without any additional evidence to show that it is a mustahab or a makruh action. And the third, if the Sharia does not speak about the issue. This is because silence implies permissibility of doing a particular thing. So, that's all from me. Thank you.
My name is Amirah Husna binti Muhammad Jamal. So I will continue the next hukum in 5 legal rulings, which is mandub, makruh and haram. So the first one is mandub. So what is mandub? Mandub is the hukum that is also called mustahab, masnun and naf. Mandub is any act that is commendable but not required. While there is no punishment for the neglect of duties which are mandub, there is reward for performing them. So from this statement, I'm very sure all of us know that it's not an obligation to do the mandub, but then when we do the act of mandub, we will get the pahala from Allah Ta'ala. So next, the example for the mandub, we just include 4 examples here, which is the first one, pious deeds of different kinds, extra prayers, fasting on Monday and Thursday, and also praying Sunnat al-Fajr. Next, the example from the Quran, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 2, Act 2. O you believe, when you deal with each other in transaction involving future obligations in a fixed period of time, reduce them to writing. In this ayah, Allah explained to us when we are in debt with someone, it is recommended for us to list down the name that we are in debt, because of people tend to forget. So that the benefit is we will remember those people that we are in debt. Plus, it is an obligation for us to pay back all the debt that we are asking from someone before. That's why Allah has mentioned in the Quran about the debt and recommended for us to list down the name that we are in debt with. So we continue with the makruh, which is discouraged or abominable. So what is makruh? Makruh is an act that avoiding its doing is preferable over doing it. One such act would be divorce, for the Prophet Muhammad SAW said, the most abominable of permissible things in the sight of Allah is divorce. However, for acts of doing makruh, there is no punishment. And for the avoidance of these acts, there is rewards. Meaning that when we are doing the makruh, we will not get the sins. But then when we are avoid ourselves to do the makruh things, we will get the reward. We will get the pahala because of our effort to avoid from doing the things that lead to makruh. Another example that we can see in the slide, which is Rasulullah SAW made it clear that it is makruh to offer to buy something for which another person has made an offer to purchase, or trying to offer an engagement to a woman who has already engaged to another person. So it is makruh. So makruh is the opposite of mandub, meaning that the neglecting of mandub act is discouraged and leads to makruh. So the next one is two types of makruh in Hanafi's ruling. So the first one is makruh tanzihan and the other one is makruh tahriman. So makruh tanzihan or karaha tanzihiyah refers to an act that is detested in Sharia without the promise of punishment for the one who carries it out. It is closer to the lawful mubah than the unlawful haram. For example, wasting water was performing ablution or being misled with it, and the second one, the consumption of horse meat in normal circumstances. The second one is makruh tahriman. Makruh tahriman or karaha tahrimiyah is a command for abstinence that has been established by speculative proof, dalil zanni. It is closer to the unlawful haram and can also be defined as being in diametrical opposition to a wajib. For example, delaying the asar prayer until the sun changes its color, means that it's very close to the maghrib. And the second one, buying and selling when the call for prayer adhan of Jum'ah takes place. You know, sometimes people don't want to stop their mu'amalah during the Jum'ah prayer, so that it is close to haram, which is makruh tahriman. The last one in 5 legal rulings is haram, which is forbidden and prohibited. So what is haram? It is also called mahdur. Haram is any act that is prohibited by the religion. These acts are binding by definitive proof in the Quran and Sunnah. For the performance of haram, there is punishment, and for the avoidance of haram, there is reward. So as we all know, when we are do the haram things, we will get sins, and when we avoid ourselves from doing that things, we will get pahala from Allah Ta'ala. So next, some of example of haram, which is killing, theft, drinking alcohol, riba, gambling, and also unlawful sexual activity or adultery. Next, the prohibited acts are clearly mentioned in Islam with the word or prohibition or other words similar in meaning in the Arabic language. An example is the verse from the Quran where Allah says in Surah An-Nisa verse 10, those who unjustly eat up the property of orphans eat up a fire into their own bodies. They will soon be enduring a blazing fire. Means that by doing what is haram or prohibited, a person is subjecting himself to punishment in this world or in the hereafter. Specific punishments are prescribed penalties and are applied according to Islamic divine law and can only be performed by an Islamic court with qualified judges. So in this statement, we can see clearly that Allah counts everything that we do in this dunya. So we just have to we just have to avoid ourselves from doing the haram things and be a better Muslim day by day, inshallah. So the last part before we end our presentation, there is two types of haram, which is the first one haram li dhatihi and the other one is haram li ghairihi. So what is haram li dhatihi? Haram li dhatihi, it is harmful itself and it becomes forbidden for the harm that is intrinsically possessed. Harm will be inflicted on the user of such a thing. The next one is haram li ghairihi, an act that is forbidden for a reason other than itself. This kind of haram is not harmful in itself and might be very useful, but it is associated with something else that deprives its value and turns into haram. So to be concluded, haram li dhatihi means that it is originally, what I mean by originally haram is actually, for example, animals that we can't eat, which is pig, khinzir, and we can't drink alcohol because of Allah has mentioned in Quran the prohibited of these two kind of things, which is alcohol and khinzir. Allah has mentioned in the Quran. It is not affected by the other things to make it haram. But then haram lighairihi, it is being haram because of affected by the other things. For example, spaghetti is halal, but then when we are going to the outside country, Western place, they mix the spaghetti with the alcohol into their cooking, so that the spaghetti turns out to be haram for us to eat that spaghetti. You know what I mean? So that is the differentiate between haram li zatihi and haram li ghairihi. Haram li zatihi, it is originally haram that Allah has mentioned in the Quran, but haram li ghairihi, it is being haram because of affected by the other things. So that's all from us. Thank you for watching. We hope that you guys understand what we are trying to present. Thank you so much, and Assalamualaikum. So the last part before we end our presentation, there is two types of haram, which is the first one haram li dhatihi and the other one is haram li ghairihi. So what is haram li dhatihi? Haram li dhatihi, it is harmful itself and it becomes forbidden for the harm that is intrinsically possessed. Harm will be inflicted on the user of such a thing. The next one is haram li ghairihi, an act that is forbidden for a reason other than itself. This kind of haram is not harmful in itself and might be very useful, but it is associated with something else that deprives its value and turns into haram. So to be concluded, haram li dhatihi means that it is originally, what I mean by originally haram is actually, for example, animals that we can't eat, which is pig, khinzir, and we can't drink alcohol because of Allah has mentioned in Quran. The prohibited of these two kind of things, which is alcohol and khinzir, Allah has mentioned in the Quran. It is not affected by the other things to make it haram. But then haram lighairihi, it is being haram because of affected by the other things. For example, spaghetti is halal, but then when we are going to the outside country, Western place, they mix the spaghetti with the alcohol into their cooking, so that the spaghetti turns out to be haram for us to eat that spaghetti. You know what I mean? So that is the differentiate between haram li zatihi and haram li ghairihi. Haram li zatihi, it is originally haram that Allah has mentioned in the Quran, but haram li ghairihi, it is being haram because of affected by the other things. So that's all from us. Thank you for watching. We hope that you guys understand what we are trying to present. Thank you so much, and Assalamualaikum.